The thoughts for the day for my utmost for his highest, and it has to do with the miracle of belief. And this is Paul talking in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 4, that my speech and my words were not with persuasive words of human wisdom. And it's important to really grasp this concept here, is that it's about planting the seeds of the gospel inside of people. It's not attracting people necessarily to you that they accept the gospel. Because what Paul was trying to say here is that if we bring people to Christ, and I was the one who was, yes, I brought you to Christ, but you were brought to Christ because of my persuasiveness of my words, the full redemption of Jesus Christ in that individual's life is just not going to happen. And that's why it's really important to be real. We live in a world where we all wear so many masks on our face. We want people to believe this about us and that about us, and a lot of the times we never let the world know who we truly are. And when we walk with Christ, we're supposed to walk with no mask on. We're supposed to be just us. God made me a certain way, to perhaps to reach out to people like you in a way that would make sense to you and to others. My life is what it is, and I shouldn't be ashamed of that. For my goofiness, always wearing a smile on my face, maybe being a little bit naive, trusting people a little bit too much. But those are my characteristics. I'm really artistic. I have a way of communicating to people, but that's me. And you have a certain way that you were created to communicate as well. But when we actually preach the gospel, we're actually being held on a higher accountability, and that we're going to actually have to be held on a higher standard because we have chosen to be teachers of Christ. But here's the cool thing, is that we're all supposed to be teachers in Christ. We are all called to be disciples. And hopefully through these messages that we're coming at to you on a daily basis, that you start kind of waking up and start seeing your lives differently and realizing that your life is what it is, that you're not in control, and that God has never forsaken us. And when you really look, that God has never forsaken us and that He's right there for you and I for all things, why do we worry? Why do we stress? And at some point, the alcoholic comes to the self-realization that he has an alcohol problem. And when that happens, the first step to recovery is that self-realization. And at some point you say, I can't drink any longer. Well, it's the same thing with us. We constantly fall into these mindsets that we worry about this and we worry about that, and we lose consciousness of God and we get caught up in our own little world. And this world is filled with all of these distractions that try to prevent us from having this relationship with God. But at some point, and I'm sure you're experiencing this, you go, man, I don't want to do that again. And then there's that realization that God is there, that God's going to be in control, and sometimes we slip right back into the ways that we have grown so accustomed to be in all of our lives. And that's okay. We're of the flesh. And some people have said that the greatest enemy that we'll ever have to face is our mind. But the more you kind of wake up and go to sleep and wake up, at some point you just kind of wake up and you go, wow, God is real. He's all around me. We're in God. His glory has never forsaken us. And when that happens, we start to be more awake in that self-realization that God is real, that God is playing an active role in my life. And we stop falling down where perhaps we used to fall down a lot more. And when that happens, we start realizing, like, wow, this is pretty cool. God created me to be a gift for the world. What does that mean? And when we start finding our purpose in life, as you commune more with God on a daily basis, that's the goal. It's always good to have a goal. God will show you what it is that He wants you to do. And you'll see that God has been right there next to you by your side. He has never forsaken you. And as you see that happening more and more, you go out into the world. And that's where that discipleship comes in. So this isn't just me speaking for me or those that are pastors or teachers on being careful in what we say and how we say it. This is for all of us. And we're heading into that time that we need to be sharing the gospel on a daily basis every single day. And what Paul is trying to communicate here is that though he was a master, was a scholar and had master gifts of being able to speak on the highest degree, not all of us are like that. Sure, I've got a gift to be able to communicate, and some people may say, well, I can never speak the way he's speaking. I have problems speaking in public. I have problems sharing my faith. But that's okay, because remember, it's about planting the seeds. And perhaps if you have a problem speaking in public, or maybe you feel uncomfortable sharing your faith, and you do share your faith, and people see that you're struggling to share that faith, how much more valuable is you sharing your faith in that condition than I? Because a person's going to go like, wow, you can tell this makes this person really uncomfortable. Maybe he's not comfortable with his words, but he's taken the opportunity to share his faith with me. People like me can communicate day and night. I can speak really, really fast. But are they hearing the message coming out of my mouth? Or are they just seeing what it is that they want to see? And when we come to Christ, it has to be a deep, profound conversion in one's life. It's not an intellectual commitment to Christ, but rather it's a lifestyle that you choose to live for Christ. And that's the divide. And that's the divide of this world. A lot of people go to their churches and hear their pastors, and so often I'll hear, hey, so-and-so pastor speaks at my church, and that's what put us out on the map. Who cares if your church is on the map? Who cares if your pastor is so-and-so? The question becomes, what is it doing for you in your life? And I think that we wear church like we put on this shirt, or we put on this hat, or we put on this jewelry, or whatever it may be. We just put it on. And everything in life we put on to make us feel a certain way. From the things we watch on television, they make us feel a certain way. How often do I hear, I just watch TV to escape? Or we turn on the music and it brings us into a certain mood. And we're very good at that. That's why friends and family, mainly friends, come and go in our lives. Circumstances come and go in our lives because we just put them on and take them up. They don't give us the convenience we want. And how often is that with church? How many people go from church to church to church and never really settle down and become part of a family? We're family. You're my brother or sister, vice versa. So we wear church really well like we wear our clothing. But that's that divide. Are you just wearing church and reading the Bible for the sake of doing it because you're saying, hey, I don't want to go to hell? Or are you truly living your life in this in total trust? And when you do start living your life in total trust, that's when we start to slow down and really appreciate the little things in our lives. Yes, we focus on the big picture and we have goals, but we focus on the little things. What can I do right now with the gifts that I have, and being appreciative of everything, even if we have nothing? It's not about money, it's not about fame, it's not about all that. It's having God in our lives. And when that deep, profound transformation starts to happen in our lives, we start wanting to share our faith more. But when we share that faith, we must realize we mustn't promote it. How often do people come to Christ and it's like, hey, I found this, and you gotta hear this, and it freaks people out. Rather, it's slowing down and sharing the faith in a way that you know how, but just doing it. And doing it in a way that's real. And that's much more than probably a lot of people have ever heard. And remember, Moses wasn't a great speaker, but it's just taking that time to share your faith, even if you struggle with it. Because if you don't, think of all the times that same person that maybe will be saved, never heard it from anyone else, but here you are sharing your faith in the way that you only know how. And those of us that can speak really well, we got to be careful that we're not promoting ourselves. That's why people come to Christ, but rather, am I planting the seeds in a way that's real, that perhaps doesn't use all of our skills to the best way possible? So as William Michael talk to you, peace.